Hello YouTube! It's about that time again. Reorganised some of the bedroom today. I don't know why I'm mentioning that, just reorganised some of the bedroom today, gave me a bit of a workout and stuff. Caused me to feel a bit overwhelmed now trying to move one of those shelves. It kept getting caught on the floor and I don't know why. So it's kind of relevant because it did create a degree of anxiety. Anywho, I'm going to be responding to my Lady Bunny's video from last week about anticipatory anxiety, which is definitely a subject that needs to be looked into because anxiety is a very weird disease. It's a disease that causes itself. It's not really anything else like that. There are people, myself included, who will often have an anxiety attack because they're anxious about having an anxiety attack. It'd be like if you broke your arm because you were worried you were going to break your arm and it just broke on its own, you know? Or it'd be like breaking your arm because you broke your arm. It's weird. But in fact, I'd wager the vast majority of people who suffer with anxiety issues, the vast majority of it, certainly a significant percentage, the largest percentage, comes from being anxious about the anxiety itself, which is called anticipatory anxiety. I don't know if that's the medical name for it, but it's, you know, it's what it is. And I wonder what causes that, beyond the obvious. Part of me thinks it's an evolutionary layover. People like the Type A personality, or I think I mentioned this last week, how, you know, in the past, if you'd hear something moving in the bushes, you'd hear, you know, evolution spent hundreds of thousands, millions, even hundreds of millions of years programming the brain to rethink, that could be a tiger, so I'm going to run this way just in case it's a tiger that jumps out and eats my face. I think anxiety, anticipatory anxiety, is a similar thing. I can't remember where it was, but I read a study, more than one in fact, saying that a lot of things like dreams and the way babies move when they're asleep, or people in general move when they're asleep, it's practice for dealing with stressful situations. Nightmares are a way for you to experience something bad and prepare yourself for it, prepare yourself for the feeling at the very least, so when it does happen you can, you know, remain in control rather than completely losing it. Stay, if not necessarily calm, at least rational enough to not go and do something really stupid like hearing a rustling bush when you're on a street and then run out into the road and get run over by a car, that kind of thing. Or if you, or to go back, it'd be more a case of, if you hear that rustling bush, to run that way away from it rather than that way towards a cliff and fall off and die. So I have to wonder, is anticipatory anxiety a way of engendering a situation in which you have an anxiety attack when it's not going to impede you as much as it would? Right, for me, going out, I have anxiety attacks. I had one not very long ago, actually. It wasn't really an anxiety. It wasn't really a proper attack. It was more like just the feeling of anxiety. I suppose that counts as an attack. I'm going out in 2 weeks to a convention, so I wonder if the anxiety I was feeling earlier was that my body trying to prepare myself and get it out of my system, so to speak. But I think with anxiety, I said that word a lot today, I think it's kind of broken somewhere on the way, because as far from draining it out of the system, it builds up and builds up and builds up. So perhaps it's a stress related, perhaps it's like a valve, you know, you can flick the valve and let some of the pressure out, but that doesn't seem to be the case, because It doesn't dissipate. It may be released from one area, but then it goes somewhere else. So, the bigger problem seems to be the anticipation of it happening. And that's something that really needs to be dealt with. It goes back to what I was saying a couple of weeks ago about how, you know, when people see me, they ask me what I'm like on a good day. When I tell them how I was feeling that day or what was going on, and like, you don't understand that this is the good day. If it wasn't, you wouldn't see me. I just wouldn't be here. And so it is for most people who feel anxious about something. You'll see them when they're at their best, which is, you know, not having an anxiety attack, or maybe even is having an anxiety attack. Because sometimes that's the way people deal with it. They go out, they have the anxiety attack, and then they move on after it passes. Because before that, it's just constantly there. It doesn't go away. I also wanted to touch on something else you mentioned towards the end about how us being together. Do we feed off each other? Is the fact that she sometimes gets anxious causing me to have problems? And yes, it's definitely a factor. If you put people together who have any kind of problem, if they're afraid of something, if they're anxious, if they're worried about money, you know, put them together, they are going to feed off each other. Of course they are, but that's only it's only in the short term. So you bring it all to the fore, and then you help each other through it. So although it does that is definitely a way of getting it out in a safer environment. That's why things like group work are so popular with people who have conditions like that, people who are depressed, for example. Or people who are recovering from a disease, recovering alcoholics. They work together because although it does bring a lot more pressure into it, you also have somebody else there who does understand, ideally, in theory, on paper. It doesn't always work in practice because everybody is different. It affects different people in different ways. It always does. But you at least have somebody there with some common ground, and for the most part, that does seem to be a good thing, because when you have somebody who really has been through it as well, not one of those, oh yeah, I know exactly how you feel, and makes it all about them. There are always going to be people like that, but fuck them, they're assholes. They can eat a dick. And I think in our case, Bunny and I, we definitely do support each other. I think Bunny supports me a lot more than she realises, and she gives me a lot more support because I don't want to say it's worse for me. It's different. It's more pervasive, certainly. It's become much more deeply entrenched with me, and it's a different thing. I mean, in Bunny's case, it is the anxiety. With me, it's agoraphobia, which anxiety is kind of a side part, is a part of it. It's not the root cause, whereas in her case, the anxiety is the root cause. So, yeah. Not much more else to say this week. This one's going to be a little on the shorter side, because that's kind of it. That's all there really is. It's something we know a lot about, us personally and in general. The anticipation of anxiety, that is something that is fairly well understood. Treating it, on the other hand, not so much. That's the problem. That's what we need to find our way around, is how to deal with that, how to get past that and lead to meaningful solutions. I don't know. I really don't know how to get over it. I've found the way that works for me personally is to just let it happen. Is to just power through it and come out the other side. But when I know it's going to happen, I don't have the luxury of doing that. There are a few things I've found that can at least take the edge off. One of them is the Fibonacci Sequence. I don't know who's familiar with that. It's a number sequence that starts with 1 and 1, and then each number is equal to the sum of the two numbers before it. So it's 1 and 1, which makes 2, then 2 and 1 makes 3, 3 and 2 makes 5, 5 and 3 makes 8. I found that I start counting that. By the time I get up to the one after 8 is 13, 21, trying to count them up, it gives your brain, it gives you something to focus on, it gives your mind something to work towards. Another one I found is prime numbers. Just pick a number at random and then try and work out if it's a prime number. For those who don't know, a prime number is a number that's only divisible by 1 and itself. So 1 obviously is 1, 2 is only divisible by 2 and 1, 3 is only divisible by 3 and 1, but 4 is divisible by 2, so it's not a prime number. 5 is only divisible by itself and 1, so again it's a prime number. After 2, every single even number isn't, so there's no point picking one of them. Always pick an odd number, like 17 for example, which 17 can be divided by 1, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, so it's not 3, can't be 5 because that's 15, 7, 14, no, 9, so yeah, 17 is. So it's 19, I think. Yep, 21 isn't now because that's divisible by 3, I know that much. So they help me when I remember to do it, which isn't as often as I like. So they might help other people, hopefully. But if anybody else knows anything about how to deal with the anticipation of feeling anxious, the anxiety about being anxious, what a bitch that one is. Seriously, it's a bitch ass in my ass. It can drink piss out of my ass. I love that expression. I was watching a guy called Nitro Rad, he does game reviews, and he mentioned that one in his review of ukulele. Love that term. Gonna be sticking with that one for a while. So that's all she wrote. Yeah, that's it. We'll see what comes up next time. So until then, thank you for watching. My dick. That's my mouse pointer. There it is.